Conventionally attractive human. I'm RidersDX, and I don't know if you know this yet, but I have a boyfriend. I know, right? It's the most shocking development to have ever occurred in the past decade, with the second year Luigi right behind it. But wow, it's great that I found a special song to send. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. One of the biggest challenges that I've come across is just figuring out stuff to do with him. I've tried serenading him in song. This one goes out to you, babe. We are never, ever, ever getting back together. I've tried drawing him something. I drew this for you, babe, because I love you as much as I love money. I've even tried taking him out to a fancy restaurant for dinner. Guess what, babe? I got coupons! I mean, come on, 5-star boyfriend material right here. I have no idea what the f I'm doing. So as a last resort, what we're going to do today is sort through video games that you can play with your partner. Because obviously, video games have a very strong history of not repelling significant others in the past. Video games may not be the first thing that comes to mind when thinking about activities to do with your partner, but as someone who shares a deep love for the medium, I'm very aware of how video games help to form so many of my greatest friendships over the years. So it makes logical sense that a video game can also strengthen a bond between lovers as well. The question is, what games could we play? Well, as a doctor of the love bug, throughout my research, I've come across tons of games we can explore, ranging from couch co-op, or as I like to call it, snuggly wuggly time, to wanting to bite their face off games. We'll start with games that are co-op friendly, and these are definitely the safer choice to go with in the initial stages of dating, especially if you're playing with someone who may not be that avid of a video gamer. There's nothing quite like the feeling of being eased into an experience. I'm versed, so I've been on both ends. Come on, there was no way I was going to make this video without talking about the dating game of the century, which also happens to share the same name as the Mary-Kate and Ashley film. I actually did get to play this one with a certain man in the past year. It didn't work out, not because of the game, but because he was a son of a... Bringing it back to this gem, It Takes Two is quite obviously the golden standard in this category. A couch or online co-op experience, you play a married couple on the brink of divorce after their child's heartbreak over their impending split somehow leads to the two of them embodying her dolls in a truly Freaky Friday-esque setup. I would describe this game as a really tightly knit action-adventure puzzle platformer hybrid, as you and your partner work together to navigate the dangers of your own home to return to your own bodies. During my short time in this game, I was very impressed with the puzzles in particular, as the game really pushes you to work through challenges that require significant communication with your partner to get through them, and is low-key a way to see how you two would fare in that. I didn't get very far, but I could also tell this is an emotional journey that can tug on the heartstrings, especially if you have any similar issues with your partner, which may be a good or bad thing. But this is definitely a solid choice if you're just starting to date someone. What an honestly genius way to break the ice. Now listen, I don't even like cooking in real life, so believe me when I say there is no way Overcooked would have made it onto my list if it weren't for the fact that it was another commonly cited title for dates. But I mean, can you really blame people? There are technically 3 Overcooked games out there, but one of them is actually a remaster of the first 2 games, All You Can Eat. I mean, sounds like my kind of game. The premise of Overcooked is very simple. You're put in the kitchen with your friends and you all have to work together to complete various tasks needed to complete a dish, whether it be chopping onions, boiling the soup, clean the dishes, etc. The more dishes you complete, the higher your score gets. It's a pretty simple concept and seems like a really accessible game for any non-video gamer. But then you play it! The game literally feels like a pressure cooker when you jump right into it. You have to work together with your teammates to divvy up the task and form an effective workflow right on the spot to gain the most points. Not to mention all the maps you can play in this game all have different obstacles and twists to always keep things fresh. So if you're introducing someone to this game for the first time, be prepared that they will probably have a meltdown as soon as the game starts. But it's a goofy experience overall, and as long as they are not short-tempered, it's a fun time. If there's one thing every cellular organism is aware of, it is the Lego brand. I've never been a big Lego guy personally, however, my boyfriend is literally cheese grating my hands to get me to reconsider, so watch this space for next year. But one thing I was a fan of when it came to Legos were the licensed cooperative adventures they came out with, starting with the Star Wars games in the 2000s. The Lego licensed video game typically consists of an abbreviated version of the stories told in their respective properties, coupled with simplistic cooperative gameplay in an action-adventure setting. I used to play played the Star Wars games all the time with my brother as a kid. I was too young to really grasp the full plots of the Star Wars movies, but I found all the action to be super cool and badass, and the LEGO games made me feel immersed enough in the experience. I will say, the games have aged like milk to me. This type of gameplay is way too simplistic for me to want to play by myself. But if you have a partner who loves one of these franchises, and there are a ton like Batman, Marvel, Indiana Jones, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, LEGO Dimensions if you want to flush all your life savings away, playing a game based off of something they already love could be one of the most appealing ways to reel them into a video game. It certainly beats building actual Legos. I mean, I'm risking my real estate for LEGO Cuts of Love. I mean, even if this wasn't a co-op game, I still think this would be a good choice as a date game simply because of the goose walking animation. If you want an easily digestible game that is guaranteed some cute laughs and moments, it's hard to go wrong with a game like Untitled Goose Game. The whole premise is you're given a list of the most random tasks to do, and you essentially wreak havoc on the town in the process of doing them. This game got a co-op update thrown in after its release, and you have two geese playing on the same screen, and this is just the most adorable setup. The game isn't designed around this mechanic obviously, so there's a few hiccups here and there, but man, I can't think of a goofier co-op game to sit down and play with your partner. Now, it's very likely you've heard of the Portal series. It's probably one of the most genius puzzle games to have ever come out in the century, and it all stems from the simple concept of having a gun that can shoot portals to transport you to your own specified locations. This single mechanic has the power to manifest into a whole host of challenges and obstacles to overcome. Portal 2 specifically has a co-op option, both online and locally, and let me just say, if you thought the game was complicated enough as a single player, having two players with 4 portals is a whole nother can of worms. You'll likely fall victim to overthinking your situation and getting nowhere, but to be honest, that could be part of the fun of playing this with someone. It's going to force the two of you to really collaborate and brainstorm a situation, and if your partner is someone that's into solving puzzles and this would be a remarkable choice for them. If you're someone who doesn't like to think though, I'd probably stay away. Y'all can thank Demeech for this suggestion. The onset of co-op play in 2D Mario began the new Super Mario Bros. Series, an infamous franchise that went from simply reviving a classic gameplay style to suffocating a legendary franchise with stifling rules that forever froze it in time for the whole Wii and Wii U eras. I was an owner of new Super Mario Bros. Wii, and it's a game that I played pretty regularly with my brother because otherwise, there was no way I was getting very far in that game on my own accord. And even then, we were both absolute trash at it, so we probably died double-digit numbers in every level after the first world. But since the game predicted that sort of tomfoolery, as long as you both haven't died at the same time, you're able to continue on in the level, which makes this a pretty beginner-friendly experience. Fast forwarding to the present, Super Mario Bros. Wonder is the latest entry in this, and is in my opinion, the very best option to go with. The game feels more natural than ever to control. You have a larger variety of characters, and the game is filled to the brim with wacky level design gimmicks that's sure to get you out of any awkward conversation tales. Mario is also the most infamous platforming icon out there, so there's a good chance your date will know who Mario is, especially if they saw Jack Black's gorgeous performance in the Mario movie. Let me just say the easiest way to age me is to talk about how much I refused to play this game for the longest time. It's not that I hated the idea of Fortnite in general, it's just being someone that grew up on single player platformers, seeing so many people flock to a free-to-play game where the only thing I heard about consistently were its predatory microtransactions. I avoided this game like the plague. But as with anything that breaks me down, the people around me began to succumb to this pandemic, and I eventually found myself dating a boy who played this game every day with his friends, and not wanting to be someone left in the dust. Plus the fact that I was making this video, it was finally time for me to bite the bullet and try out a match of Fortnite. We got together and initiated split screen Fortnite, and let me tell you something I know you're not going to believe. We played 3 matches and won all 3 of them. He was probably way more shocked than I was, and I'll be honest, I think I can consider myself hooked onto this plague. We definitely concluded it is just the power of the games. I mean, that much is obvious. But besides winning my first 3 matches, it was such a fun experience as a date game because my boyfriend was showing me the ropes of it, and it's a relatively easy game to get into. It's also goofy with all the emotes, the popular music being used in it. I imagine it wouldn't be that hard to loop people in that aren't huge gamers either thanks to that. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was this close to playing a match years ago when that Ariana Grande skin came out. But no, I'll give Fortnite its props. It's an easily accessible experience and honestly a solid choice for a date game, especially because there's a chance your date has friends that also play the game, so they'll probably be more open to trying it anyway. Now, this is a very special game to me, but before I tell you that, what exactly is Genshin Impact? It is a free-to-play action-adventure RPG game that places you in this anime-style world where you traverse in an open world-like setup as an avatar whose goal is to find your twin sibling. That is a gross simplification of what is going on here though, because this game is definitely packed with intricate storytelling that even after playing for 6 months still confounds me. I mean, there's a map that'll take you years to fully explore, complex battle mechanics, maybe hundreds of characters, a million ways to upgrade your characters, weapons, and abilities. You can customize a teapot! It's actually astounding how big this game truly is and how much my 2024 I've dedicated to it. But to get back on topic, this is a really good online co-op game, but under a very specific circumstance. I would not recommend introducing someone to this game who doesn't play video games because it is confusing as hell. But if you're an avid player of this game and you're introducing a gamer who's never touched it, the co-op modes work in a way where only the higher leveled player can go to the lower player's world, and you essentially help the newer player complete quests, farm materials, and basically just teach them the ways of the game. To be quite frank, this is not something I would ever touch, simply because it's more complex than I'm used to, and the gacha elements are literally kryptonite to me. But my current boyfriend is obsessed with this one, and I've been genuinely having a good time playing this with him, as he tries desperately to teach me everything he knows about this game. Due to my TikTok damaged brain, only about 10% of what he says registers itself in my database. But that's why I love him, because he loves this game so much, he'll put up with teaching it to someone who's definitely getting Alzheimer's. But now I have another thought. It's great to be nice and lovey-dovey with your partner with these sort of games, but what if you two like to live on the wild side? Arr. What if you're SpongeBob and Sandy preparing for hibernation? Then just some measly leisurely co-op experiences ain't gonna cut it. This doesn't include Overcooked, by the way. Well, fret not, because I have a whole host of games to ease that competitive spirit. I'm a Scorpio, so I should know. I don't know about you all, but Mario Kart is pretty much the #1 game I go to in just about any social situation. It's recognizable, easy to pick up, and has a very inviting and easygoing atmosphere that would make any non-gamer feel like they could approach it. Little do they know that this game will ruin friendships. Don't get me wrong, Mario Kart is really great in a group setting, as while it does rely on a certain amount of skill that will allow you to comfortably win most matches if you're good, there's still a fair amount of both that can get in the way. And while in a group setting, if I strike my good pal with a blue shell, I can be all, haha, you, I got you. Your date may not appreciate that sort of back and forth. In fact, competitive games in general may present an issue I can foresee no matter what game it is you choose, and that is the risk of beating your partner over and 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 over again, which can beat their self-esteem to a pulp and fertilize their resentment to eruption. So to minimize this issue, be sure to let your partner win a match every now and then to keep their spirits up. But of course, don't make it obvious that you're letting them win, otherwise they will beat you up. Mario Kart may ruin friendships, but Mario Party will create bullet holes that band-aids can't fix. I would argue that Mario Party is an even more obvious choice to play with your date than Mario Kart, as while not everyone may be into go-karting, anyone can appreciate a party, except for the socially reclusive. But the thing with Mario Party is the bull is multiplied to infinity with this one, and you have absolutely no control over the situation that could unfold. So you definitely have to make sure that not only your partner is okay with bullshit, but also that you are okay with said bullshit as well. Now come on, how am I not going to talk about probably the most iconic fighting game to have ever graced cheap hardware? Super Smash Bros. Was a game I went back and forth on including here. One, because I already have a ton of Nintendo titles here, but two, it doesn't always come off as the most beginner-friendly game to jump into. Fighting games in general have always been extremely intimidating to me, especially those classic sort of 1 versus 1 fighting games with 10,000 fighting combinations to memorize. Like, who do they think I am? A drug dealer? But of all fighting games, Super Smash Bros. Is definitely one of the more inviting ones to the naked eye. Probably the most integral thing your partner really needs to nail down here that's a little complex is the recovery mechanic, especially with certain characters where it isn't that straightforward. But other than that, as long as you know how to jump and attack, that's about all you need to get started. And Smash Bros. Has the benefit of having so many recognizable characters, especially when it comes to Ultimate. Not to mention a huge variety of stages to fight on with a range of the wackiest, most gimmicky stages you could ask for to the most simplistic layouts to rely exclusively on skill. Now, with every stargazing product comes its cheap copy, or in this case, an avalanche of shovelware. You didn't think I would go through this video without mentioning the mountain of substitutes you could sift through here, now did you? Mario Kart, Super Smash Bros., and Mario Party have all inspired a multitude of imitators that all range in quality, usually in the trash pile department. But listen, in a pile of trash, sometimes you'll find another man's treasure. And throughout the years, there have been a few noteworthy copycats that I want to spotlight right here. Now, of course, I have to mention my #1 video game franchise here in some capacity, even if it has to be with the pretense of it being a shallow replica. But Sonic All-Stars Racing Transform is anything but a shallow replica. Yes, it is a kart racing game and functions much like its Nintendo counterpart, but this game introduces a really fun mechanic that at times make this a far more dynamic racing experience than Mario Kart. The transform mechanic will morph your vehicle into a variety of additional mechanics ranging from water surfing to air gliding, and challenges you to think on the fly as the game throws a new racing mechanic at you to learn on the spot. It visually looks cool and is not difficult to grasp. Not to mention, beyond Sonic characters, there are a host of Sega properties here that your partner may recognize, especially if they've been in a few arcades. Now listen, there are actually a ton of great platform fighter equivalents out there, so I'm not trying to sit here and act like this is the best of the bunch. But come on, everyone knows who SpongeBob is. Who doesn't want to duke it out with a spatula at some point in their lives? The first one is fine, but the second entry is where it's really at, as it pretty much includes most of the content of the first game, but with more refined mechanics and many more characters and arenas to choose from. If you're dating a 90s kid in particular, then they'll definitely appreciate some of the older cuts here like Ren and Stimpy. It isn't an exact replica of Smash, so you can't just jump from one to the other. Both are going to require a bit of a learning curve, but man, I can't praise this game enough. It is such a solid time and I wish more people would play it regularly. So, what about Mario Party substitute? Shrek Super Party? The bobbleheads look too cursed. Sonic Shuffle? If I wanted to play with cards, I go to Vegas. Mary Kate and Ashley Sweet 16 license to drive? Honestly, your date might just be impressed that a game like this exists. No, if I'm being honest, no real Mario Party substitutes really come to mind as legitimate competitors to Mario Party, but maybe that's okay. There's certainly a lot of goofy options out there, and if your date is the kind of person that can appreciate a good joke, putting on shovelware could be a fun or sort of dumb entertainment. I will say I have a very soft spot for the party mode in Sonic and the Secret Rings. First off, it's a side mode in a very mediocre side game, so your expectations for this are literally rock bottom. But secondly, there's a few different ways to play, including one that resembles the Mario Party board, although not really, and they are all honestly decently fun ways to run through the minigames. And the minigames themselves are fun motion control-esque experiences that, let's be real, we all found fun at one point or another. But listen, let's think about the worst case scenario, because that's a world I truly love to live in. Well, maybe not love, and more like obsessively living against my rational will. You show your date plenty of games we just covered and they're like, no, video games are the worst thing to have ever come to this world. So first off, why the f are you two dating? But secondly, fear not, because I have a last-ditch effort gameplay experience that I swear will knock their socks off. Games that make you look like the funniest person alive. We've of course got to talk about one of the most staple of all staple experiences on the Nintendo Wii. Just ooga booga. Just Dance is pretty much the video games industry version of an earworm. It just never goes away no matter how badly you want it to. Now listen, Just Dance and I go way back. When I was trying to figure out how to exercise regularly doing something that was actually fun, Just Dance was one of the most immediate choices for me. Sure, it took them ages to actually get the lead of the world Taylor Swift on the roster, but nonetheless, the games always have a good mix of both modern pop hits and some oldies to attract a wide audience. Listen, you get what you pay for here, and while I'm sure the majority of you wouldn't be caught dead playing this on a regular basis, let me just offer you a different viewpoint. Looking like the funniest person alive to your date. Dates having the risk of being awkward is one of the most understated things I could ever say. Nothing makes you feel more like you're closer to the brink of death than a full 10 seconds of silence. I'll give anyone props for even considering this series of games, but sometimes it truly is a commendable thing to essentially rip the band-aid off. If you have the guts to literally look like a fool to your date doing the Gangnam Style dance, committing to the bit and going all out, I guarantee is going to nab you another date. But if it doesn't, you were probably just dating the Grim Reaper. Do you remember the Kinect or the iToy or whatever useless Nintendo Wii knockoffs that came out afterwards? They were running amok, and while quality-wise, these games can be all over the goddamn map, you could at least find yourself in some wacky situations with your date. I personally have no interest in revisiting these sorts of games at this point in my life just because Seto can be a but this IGN reviewer absolutely insisted I include this in the video. Did you know that there are just trash heaps of shovelware you can introduce your date to? Because quite honestly, what better way to make you look like a desirable partner than to show your date game after game that just sucks? Shrek's Carnival Craze. It functions. Nickelodeon Party Blast. It has colors. Disney Channel All-Star Party. Cause we really are all in this together. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I don't even think this has multiplayer. Okay folks, I have to be honest. There are too many choices to sift through here. What if you're still trying to get to know them? How in the hell are you supposed to choose? I've gotten to the point now where I could give a rat's about what game we play. It seems no matter what game you pick here, there's some dumb variable that could result in absolute downfall. Almost makes this whole self-discovery journey completely pointless. I might as well introduce my date to whatever the I want because it probably isn't gonna work. And I'm fated to die alone. Yes, that is exactly what you must do. Oh, listen, man, I'm not into threesomes. Shut up and marinate on that thought you just mentioned. About a rat's No, I mean literally the last thought you just shared. Well, not the very last thought, but the last thought before the last thought. Heh. That's not a bad idea, actually. So walk with me here. I'm going to be a little self-indulgent, and for this final game I recommend, it's a game you grew up with. Listen, it may not be a multiplayer-friendly experience. It may not fit the vibe of whoever it is you're trying to date, but there's something arguably special about showing your significant other a game that helped shape and determine the person that they are getting to know. So when it came to my actual boyfriend, I knew if he was willing, there was one game I had to introduce him to. It's not my first video game ever, but it is the game that changed everything for me. That game that transformed me from video game fan to deranged, obsessed basement gamer. And that game is none other than my very first Sonic game, Sonic Heroes. Sonic is my favorite franchise of all time, but you will notice in this video, he hasn't really been mentioned at all besides 1 or 2 games. Sonic is just not the sort of franchise you play with your partner. He consists of mostly solo adventures, and any multiplayer experiences are just not the first choice you think of. But Sonic is just such an important part of my life that I knew it was important to introduce him to him. We watched the 3 Sonic movies, of course, and that's what led me to thinking about slowly introducing him to the actual games the movies are based off of. So, what did he think of Sonic Heroes? Yeah, you're moving forward. That's very important in a Sonic game, is moving forward. Your first death.
Wait, did I not get it?
No.
Why not? Okay.
Once you would know you got it once you got it. Yeah. That's the thing, is like Sonic's fun, but he's a little fast.
Well, also, why didn't they just make it where you automatically get the checkpoint?
This is a game from 2003.
So?
See, at least you got the checkpoint.
Yeah, but that's still far back.
Shit, rock, yeah. And then press A if you want to try to shoot. Oh, wait. Did you run out? Oh, you ran out of lives. Yeah, here you go. I'm not going to pretend Sonic Heroes is the second coming of Mario 64 and that it should be lauded as one of the greatest gaming experiences of all time, and anyone that doesn't think that is suffering from brain damage. But I mean, it is true. But all that aside, it is the first platformer I truly fell in love with, and there was something really warm about watching someone I care so much about experiencing something that's honestly shaped so much of my life, like this damn YouTube channel. And he did the same with me. There's actually a game that was he didn't grow up with, is most certainly his favorite game of all time, and I included it in this list. And that was none other than Genshin Impact, a game I would have never touched within a 4-foot pole before meeting him. We actually went to the Symphony concert the game hosts last month and had an amazing time in the heart of New York City, and honestly, isn't this what gaming with your date is all about? Just indulging yourself in shared or new experiences and bonding together through them? I think I cracked the code, and I think half of this video is now rendered completely useless. Nah, we definitely got some good choices here, especially if they're new to the gaming scene and you want to play it safe with them. I'd love to hear some of your own experiences with gaming with your partner if you would be so kind. Let's swim in a pool of anxiety and uneasiness together. Oink! This is Riders, riding out.